Alright, so now that we got our fuse box configured, I'm going to make a harness. First I'm going to change our template. I got a bunch of different templates set up. We've had a local print shop print some drawings one-to-one before. It's nice until you have to make a change, and then your $35 drawing is garbage, or you write on it with Sharpie, which kind of defeats the purpose, but that's okay. I like to go with either the tabloid size because it'll shrink down to a piece of paper and you can still see it relatively nicely on the screen. I like to clear all this crap out because that's all elsewhere. And we'll start. I do have this drawn up in a schematic in front of me to make it easier. Otherwise, most of it's in my head. It's a real simple harness. We got two of those. Two of those. We have a quick connect terminal. It's a bullet. Male non-insulated. And then we have two rings. They're number 10 studs. Alright, so it always starts out a little messy. I usually bring all these off the paper to get going. Name everything. Let's see, we got, these are switch connectors. So we got front switch, rear switch. We got front LB, rear LB. As you guys probably figured out, it's for some light bars. Fuse box. Alright, so I'm going to roughly place the components how they show up on our drawings. Our bullets down here. Our fuse box is up here. Here's the cover and this. We got our rear light bar. It's going to go down here. Our front light bar is going to go over here. And our switches will go over here. Alright, now we'll put the connectors, because our harness will basically be in here, so on all of our components. Like that. Our ground ring's a little bit longer than our ignition. Alright, and then I need some splices. As splice, we got different. Here's a crimp splice, parallel splice 1, our part number. Here's a solder sleeve with no lead on it, a larger one. Here's our smaller solder sleeve that comes with the lead. And my favorite are sonic welds. Pretty sure we only need 2 for this. We got ground splice and an ignition splice. We'll get these out of here too. I'll probably need, it looks like, 2 more splices for the switches. Front switch, rear switch. Alright, so we start making our connections. I'm going to start with the fuse box. So we have coming in 18 red for our main power feed. Ring, fuse. Then we got, we'll do those in red too. So from our fuse, we'll do two different colors because I got a front switch and a rear switch. So we got fuse to splice, splice to relay, relay to switch. Same thing here. Then we got our output, so we'll do 18 blue to match the stripe for front or rear. I haven't decided yet, it doesn't really matter. And then we'll need a trigger back, so we'll do a 20 white, dark blue, or dark green. Some of our light and dark stripes aren't really all that necessary to have them line up as long as it's blue and green. Alright, so first we're going to go from the ignition splice to ignition ring, 18 red. So if you plan it right, you can just go straight down the road. So then I'm going to go ignition splice to fuse box. We got 3 and 10. Like I said, I have this all pre-planned out. A lot of people say that they wish Rapid Harness could do more without having to look at spreadsheets or documents, but you do need to plan out your harness ahead of time. Simple ones like this, I can sometimes just wing it, or I'll just have this fuse box sitting here with a relay so I can make sure I line up pin 30, 87, and the 85 and 86. But generally you do want to plan it out. So now we got front switch. We're going to make the front light is blue. So everything with a blue stripe or blue wire goes to the front. So we got front switch. Splice goes to the fuse box 9 from the fuse. We got 8 will feed the relay. And then we'll go to front switch, pin 2. And now it's green, so we'll go rear. And it goes, we'll go rear switch, also pin 2. They're crawling switches, so the 2 is the input. And then we got fuse box 4 and 5. And now this is the output to the front light bar. So I'll go front light bar, pin 1. Whenever I do generic stuff, I do pin 1 is power, pin 2 is ground all the time. So all of our lights can plug into this no matter what size light bar we go with, as long as it doesn't draw more than 8 amps, because we got 10 amp fuses in here. And the output to the front light bar is fuse box pin 1. And we got greens, so we got rear light bar pin 1. Fuse box output is 12. And then our switch, green is the rear light bar, so the rear switch. Output for this actually is 5. So we got to be a little creative on this switch. It goes to fuse box 6. And our front switch, pin 3, which is what you'd more likely expect if you ever mess with these calling switches, goes to number 2. So in this fuse box, I almost have it totally populated. We got 7 and 11 left. 7 is a ground, and 11 is actually power from, missed one of these, so the rear switch splice goes to fuse box 11 with let's make them all the same because of the wire machine. Now here, since it's just feeding, this is feeding pin 85 of the relay, it could just go with 20 gauge on that, but it's easier for us to go all the same size on the wires, except for these two. I might change those because when we're running our big machine, we're going to start with this connector, so it's going to have all these contacts and seals, and it's silly to have our guy have to change out parts to do 20 gauge because this is going to be a production harness. So we'll change the conductor design to 18 white and blue. And we'll change, oops, that was the wrong one. It should be green. 18 white, green. And here's the 20 blue. Now fuse box 7 is a ground, so this will go fuse box 7 to the ground splice 18 black. This whole harness can be 18 gauge. Okay, so our fuse box is done. I set up this configuration earlier. So now, as a cover, 2 relays, 2 fuses, the mounting bracket, and now all these terminals are 18 gauge, 16, 18 gauge metric back 280, and the appropriate seal that goes with it. You can see here, we'll change this to hide the wire seal. So these are already popular with the contacts. These DTM, ATM, they already have the connector, the TPA, and the contacts in there because I already have that configuration set up. These switches, I always have them set up where they're always populated all the way, and then I can just delete the pins we don't use. Now we'll look at the front switch, which is easier. I need front switch, pin 7. I'm going to do all the grounds now, so we'll do 18 black. Didn't count how many I need, so I'll add 7 just to start with. That goes to the ground. On the rear switch, pin 6 goes to ground. And pin 7 goes to ground. Pin 7 is the light. The ground in the switch for the light is pin 7. And for the light bar, rear I need pin 2, and front light bar pin 2. And now I need to connect this, whoops, wrong one, this splice to here. But if I look, here's the wires in here. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 18 gauge wires. 2 of them feed light bars, and those are supposed to be able to handle up to 8 amps. So I got, we'll call it 16 amps coming out of there. Then we got the fuse box 7, it's a relay coil, negligible. So the switch ones are all negligible. They either turn on a relay or they turn on an LED. So we'll just go with a 16 gauge from the ground to the ground ring. Which means that this, change the design, 14 to 16. I don't have a number 10 set up, so I'll have to create a ring terminal and make sure we order one. So we got to create a little bonus. You guys get gray minimum size 16, max size 14. You can fill in this stuff if you want. This is our internal part number. I could put it here and have like a Molex part number up here, but we have an inventory system that tracks different suppliers and their part numbers for stuff. We'll end up getting this probably from Waytech. So now we can change this to the new design. So now that's a 14 to 16. This is an 18 to 20. Which honestly, thinking about it, should also be the same thing. So this wire here, this wire here that goes from the ring to there should be a little bigger. And this we can change. There. Now both of these are 16 gauge to the splice, and they split off to basically run the front light bar and the rear light bar separately. What do we have left? We still got to hook up this bullet. So the rear switch is weird because this bullet connects to the machine, which has a signal to turn on a backup beeper, but we're using it to turn on a relay, but it's a ground side signal. So what we're doing here is going from the bullet to rear switch pin 4, and the wire on the machine is gray and blue. Pretty sure I have 18 gauge gray and blue here. This just makes it so that I could go with a 20 gauge because all I was doing is turning on a relay, but now all these are the same, so when we're crimping we don't have to adjust our applicator. Well, let's set it to 18 gauge and just hammer all these out. We don't have to worry about doing 18 gauges and then the 20 gauges. And when we have our benchtop stripper, it's the same thing. Everything is just on this harness is set up for 18 gauge. Make these tables a little less busy. Now that I have, oops, I forgot to hit add connection. There we go. So I have all 12 of those populated, 2 of those, 2 of those. I got these going. So basically this switch is just standard single pole, single throw lit switch. So you have pin 2 is the power in, pin 3 is the power out, which also feeds power to the light, and then there's the ground. Real standard setup. This is a dual pole, dual throw switch, and what we're doing here is we have power coming in. When you turn it on either way, the power doesn't go anywhere. These just turn on an LED, and here's the ground for it. And here we have the middle pin on the switch goes to the relay. One side is ground and one side comes from here, so we can, if we have the switch in the middle position, the light will never come on. If we have it flipped down, pin 4 and 5 are connected, so now this bullet here from the vehicle controls the relay for the light. When we flip it up, then it's ground, so it turns on the switch. So what we're doing with this is we're turning a light bar into a backup light and a work light with the option to just have it turn off. So if you're backing up, like you're hunting or something, you're backing up and you don't want the light to come on, or you're backing out of your neighbor's driveway or something, don't want anybody to see you, you can do that. So now we have all of our connections made, and we just need to clean it up. And I have another drawing here that shows how I want this laid out dimensionally. So we have, start with our rear light bar and our bullet. So that goes there. Now you have another branch that will basically put all these switch wires in it. So we got that. Now we have another branch that's like one main trunk. Everything is we're gonna build it out from the fuse box. So what we do is we got a big machine that cuts the wire and it crimps it, puts seals on, all that stuff. So in this one we're actually going to stack the splices, which usually I don't do unless it's in the bottom of a relay box and there's really no way around it. Sometimes when you have a lot of busy stuff, it's nice to move this to see if there's a wire hiding underneath it that isn't part of the branch. So right now we have basically the fuse box comes out, a couple inches down is the splices, which are the minimum our machine can do is 2.5 inches. So we'll do 2.5 inches there. We'll do 1.5 inches here. So that's 4 inches from the bottom of the relay box to the main branch. All this will exit. We're mounting it right next to, they got a bus bar in there that's got a 14 gauge wire feeding a ground ring and an ignition ring. The ground ring is closer to where we're mounting the fuse box by about 1 inch. So we'll do 4 and 3 so you can loop it. That way you're not stuck setting it somewhere. The front light bar, we need 4 feet to get through the machine to the front. These switches are a little over a foot away from where they go. They're going to mount next to each other in the dash, so they can be 4 inches. That bullet breaks out underneath the bed in the back. Now this branch they can either mount up on the top by the roof for a big light bar, or they can mount it back by the bumper for the smaller one. This runs through the machine. It's 9 feet, 108 inches. Alright, and now what I always do is I add branch points to anything that's got a long piece of loom on it. Make it 1 inch long. Coming out helps with dimensions, so they can cut out a 60-inch piece of loom, put over these 2 wires. This will be 1/4 inch loom. I mean, I could put coverings, but we don't mess with it because it doesn't show up anywhere useful. We have a different spreadsheet we do for that. And here's 1 inch. And then we're going to want labels next. So let's make a nice amount of room. This obviously isn't to scale. So do labels. We need, I like doing black on these. 3/8 black with glue. A2 by the switches. 1/4 for the light bar, bullet, spade, spade. So these 2 are bigger. Sometimes the way this stack stuff we got. And we like to print on the heat shrink with glue because we can also cover the end of our loom with it. Drag them all over here to a different part of the screen. Put the label there. Label here. This will cover the part where we crimp it. Oops, I have caps lock on so I can't hit shift. The bad part about doing black heat shrink with white writing is in here you can't see what you're typing. Caps lock front. Front. Rear. Put gray blue, even though the wire is the same color. There's a wire on the machine. There's 4 of them actually down there, and we'll plug into the one that's gray and blue, which matches the wire, but that doesn't always translate without a label telling you specifically what it is. There. The last thing we need to do is clean up our contacts. These are correct, those are correct, these are all correct. Those are rings, we already checked those. There's a rule checker. Wires not used. What you can do there is right click, delete unused wires. So all those extra black wires just disappeared. Rule checker, connectors unused cavities, the switches of course because we don't use them all. And now what we'll do, there's two ways you can do this. You can either right click here and edit contacts and wire seals. Now that only goes to this connector. This is a newer feature in the last however year or two. It hasn't been there forever, where it tells you that there's a wire there. So these have no wires, so we'll clear them. It's an unsealed connector, so there's no cavity plugs. Or you can go over here, connectors. Oh, you can't do that anymore. You used to be able to click here and it would show them all in a list. You click edit contacts, wire seals, and it have every connector on the harness in a list. Sometimes that's nice, sometimes it's not. So we'll clear them out. So the only thing for this harness that is not in the bill of materials, because I don't have them set up, is the switch itself and the cover, because we have custom laser edge covers. So we got one that says backup lights and one that says LED light bar for the front light. Now what I'll do is I will put this stuff back in the drawing, close to where it goes. Actually, I'm going to go like this, shift it out of the right so you can have your fuses and relays line up here. These I can delete. It's cute though. This one goes down here. This one goes over here. I'll just put the splices down here. Front switch, rear switch. This doesn't need to be 20 feet long. Here's our splices. 3, there's fourth one. Ground ring. And this. And then I need the cut list. I'm going to change to our cutter. So what this does when I export the spreadsheet, it shows the contact PNs, part numbers, and I'll delete the ones I don't want crimped. For something like this, we could do both ends, but it's easier and quicker to start here. We'll populate, we'll crimp all these on, do our 4 splices. We'll populate this, then we'll just lay out 1 branch, 2 branch. These won't have loom, this will have loom, this will have loom, this will have a piece of loom. And then we'll trim the wires, strip them on our benchtop stripper, hit these in our applicator for term TD, which is a male Delphi HGS contact, which crosses over to the Deutsch one, stamped and formed, and we use probably 40,000 or more a year. Oops. And then these are MetroPack 630 unsealed, so we have another applicator for that. And then we'll hand crimp these 2 in this bullet. So then the other thing I do is I always go into edit lengths. I like to add 4 inches to the length of all of them. There's none that are folded over because I got a splice on them all. But once I do this, it's fine for all the long wires, but the wires that go from the fuse box to the splice are no good. So I'll do fuse box dot to search. Then I'll look here, ignition. This will take 4 inches off. Actually, it looks like anything that's 6.5 inches. I copy that. So now I can just double click. There we go. She's ready to export and make